Hello, everybody. Welcome on back to Fantasy Football Futures. I'm Tyler.
I'm Tim.
And today on our episode, we're going to break down the NFC East. This should be, I would think, probably one of the more interesting ones that we do because of the top two teams with the Eagles and the Cowboys, and then how bad the other two are. But before we get going here, we could talk about some of the news that happened this past week with camp and everything starting. But Kyler Murray and the Cardinals finally reached an agreement. What do you think? Do you think that will be good for them in the long term? What do you think with the Murray situation?
I thought he actually got overpaid. I've never been on like the Murray train. I don't know, like they always started out hot, but then when it came down to like crunch time, he just like was never there. Good fantasy player. I think he'll be another top 10 fantasy player for sure. But just like in the whole NFL aspect, just like thought it was too much money. And then it got leaked like that clause where he has to do like homework. But then they just took that away. Like, just removed it. So
I don't know. I think
it's a lot of money to give someone to like have to do homework. So
well, that's what I mean. If you are already concerned with how much he watches film and stuff, I don't know. Like, I get it, it's great, but then, I mean, because you got them, like, with Lamar still having his contract talks and everything, I don't know, kind of leaves the door open. I would rather have Lamar, I think, over Kyler. Yeah. Just because the athlete aspect of what Lamar can bring on a field, which is different than I think we've seen since Michael Vick. He's not as talented as Michael Vick, but I don't know. He always brings an interesting aspect to it. But really, outside of that, there hasn't been, I guess, Julio Jones. We talked about the Bucs the last podcast. He's now added to their offense, which just gives them another weapon. I don't think you can't read too much into it. Just he's going to be a piece. He's going to get games where he has solid games, but I don't think Julio from the past is here anymore.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and then DK Metcalf, I think a couple hours ago, just signed 3 years, $72 million extension.
I think for him, that's a heck of a deal for him. Like he's gonna be free agent again when he's 27. Like he can still get another 3-year deal with, and I'm still not sold that they're not going to trade him eventually. And so
I think they wanted to were looking around, but the Seahawks had no leverage. Like DK wasn't going to play, and the Seahawks are already terrible as it is. So it was going to find anyone that had a no trade clause. No one was going to Seattle. No, and so you had to pay him.
So that's what I mean. His contract's not absurd. I think he's deserved it. He's done. Mm-hmm. He is free. He does drop the ball a lot, but I mean, you got to pay him to see what he does. Now I'll be interested to see what they kind of do going forward because Drew Lock's not the answer, unless who knows, maybe he comes out of nowhere this year, but I don't think so.
Well, I read earlier today, Geno Smith is actually at the start of training camp is like leading the starting.
I can see that. Geno is past his prime from the Jets days to now.
And Geno knows that system. He's been with the Seahawks for a while, so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of go back and forth, and that's just tough for the Seahawks having to watch either of those. I feel bad for them.
I know. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they're going to look like going forward. Mm-hmm. But and Chris Carson retired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's inevitable with how many injuries he's had the last 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. It's just been but I guess that keep opens. Now you got Rashad Penny and then Kenneth Walker kind of going to take the role. I know they mentioned Penny will be the number one, but I could see possibly Walker taking over that role by the end of the year.
Yeah, Penny always gets hurt. He's going to be out a few games at least this year. It always is. So, and if Walker, if he comes out and he is kind of fun to watch on that bad team, like they're going to play him. They got to sell tickets somehow. And if he's at least scoring touchdowns or doing something for him, you got to stick with it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all the news that's really been happening. Camp started. It's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully no injuries like last year when we had Dobbins go down and Gus Edwards, and then I forget the other. I think your cornerback. It might have been Humphreys, but I'm not sure. They all went down last year. So that's all the news for right now. Then let's slide into the NFC East here, starting with probably a team that made the biggest splash during the draft with not only just trading, but some of their picks. They trade up to trade their pick to get A.J. Brown from the Titans, sign him to a big deal. Eagles now have their number one. how does AJ Brown? I know AJ Brown. I was thinking with the Titans, he's a top 5 wide receiver this year. You could argue that he could go be the 3rd, 4th wide receiver because the games he put up last year were crazy. He would have 100-something yards reception. Nobody was going to take those catches from him. You put him with the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, who finished top 10 quarterback last year. Do you think his value drops actually because he's with the Eagles and that run heavy offense that we saw last year might be an issue?
Yeah, I think AJ Brown's still going to have a great season, but there were times, especially with Derrick Henry out, that's what the Titans offense was around. It was getting the ball to AJ Brown, short yardage, deep passes. Ryan Tannehill was able to try to get him the ball. And now in this offense, you got Devontae Smith on the other side, you got Miles Sanders, and Jalen Hurts likes to run the ball a little bit more. Brian Tannehill couldn't do anything with his feet. So I think on a fantasy aspect, it might hurt him a little bit, especially around with the touchdowns. He's still going to be that number one, still going to be a guy that you need to draft. But from compared to last year, I can see a downfall from last year to compared to this year.
That's what I think. If you can get him late 2nd, early 3rd, I think that's a huge steal because they did mention that. I know Hurts pushed for this trade, pushed for Brown, their friends, whatever. I think Devontae Smith was really good, but last year Devontae Smith was their best weapon outside of Goddard, and I think that we saw that hurt him because he was the one seeing the doubles. Where this year you got AJ Brown going to be that number one focus, which now we can look at. Does Devontae Smith take a step up, or do you still is he dropping back farther because of the addition of AJ Brown, and he still has to compete with Goddard out there?
I think with Devontae Smith, I think he's the one that takes maybe a step up. Devontae Smith isn't like he just runs routes; he gets open, and even if like he's going deep, he kind of does in the little short, the slants, kind of the curls a little bit. And I think just getting him the ball and just kind of let him do what he does, like especially when he's with Alabama. I think this is his 2nd year. He knows the system. Jalen and him are on a better kind of. Have a full spring training, not spring training, but
mini camp
and everything like that. So I think it's just going to be another great season for him. Everyone's going to be worried about AJ Brown, worried that Jalen might take off, and Devontae Smith is just going to sneak in there, and I think he's going to have a great season.
That's what I think. Devontae Smith, his draft value isn't really. I don't know. Let me see. What's his ADP right now? I think it's pretty low. He's a number 81 receiver right now in PPR. So if you can get him late, I think that's a great flex play role because, I mean, we saw last year AJ Brown had injury issues, and I'm pretty sure the year before he had some injury issues. So picking up a guy like Devontae Smith late to play in your flex could be a huge role because you're not really sure what he's going to see outside of that. So I like Devontae, especially late as a low flex play, because if the Eagles, let's say they start passing the ball more because they feel confident in Jalen Hurts, like they said, I don't know. I'll be interested to see because the number one clear, like we said, AJ Brown. I even think the number 2 option teams will think Goddard would probably be a good number 2. But I think Devontae Smith at that low wins, he's probably gonna go 7th, 8th round this year, kind of where he was last year. I would like that. I like that value for him, especially in that late flex spot.
Yeah, so do I. He finished with the 29th wide receiver in PPR last year. Yeah. I know you had him, and it was just kind of frustrating because he had over 100 targets, 64 catches.
Yeah.
And it was just could be very frustrating at times watching him because he couldn't just break out. And I think this might be the year where he might do that, have more breakaway runs and get in the zone a little bit more.
I think he only gets better with the addition of AJ Brown. I know there's going to be, he might not see 100 targets, but I think the ones that he does see, he's going to do something with. And then we look at here Dallas Goedert before we get into the running backs. Number 11 PPR last year for tight end. He showed good games late, but he also got injured a couple in the beginning of the year, and I think you saw that where his numbers kind of dipped down. Going into his 5th year, what do you think Dallas Goedert's going to be looking like without having to worry about Zach Ertz now?
I think, honestly, It definitely, his targets definitely dropped last year, but now he doesn't have Ertz the whole time. So I think it's going to be good. But at the same time, you got the AJ Brown. You lost Ertz, so then he's the
Yeah.
only tight end. But then you add AJ Brown. I'm thinking around 3, 4 touchdowns, probably if fully healthy, like 60 targets is kind of what I'm saying. Like he had 87 in 2019, 65 and 76. I'm kind of guessing around like that 60 range if he's
Yeah.
fully healthy, just because of the addition of AJ Brown and just really Jalen Hurts might and how this run game is for them to really maybe focus on Miles Sanders, especially if he stays healthy.
Yeah. I think, like I like Dallas Goedert. I think he's going to be a top 10 tight end, just solely because I think they're going to have to work him into the system. And I think he's more of their check down guy than their running backs are. So I think Goddard, he can be a top 10 tight end. Now he's going to have those duds, but I think he's also going to have good games where you might see where he has 90 yards and a touchdown, kind of go off type of day. I think he's one of the better tight ends. It's just kind of, we don't really know what the Eagles are going to look like because of this offense. Last year, they came out throwing, they were bad, but then they turned on the run game and they figured it out. So I don't know. I like him probably late, and he's going to be probably like if you're a top 10 tight end, you're one of the more reliable tight ends. I think he's going to consistently get you at least 8 to 10 points a week. Which
I agree because last year Goddard he was 5th in yards for tight ends, but only had those 56 receptions as the lowest in like the top 6 or 7. And he had 14 yards after like yards per catch, so he's not like just being used in the end zone.
Yeah.
Using when he's going straight down the field. Jalen Hurts is able to hit him over that linebacker, and he's able to get 15, 20 yards per catch. So I think it's very, very reliable. Like you said, 8 to 10. He's not going to, honestly, he's not the guy that gives you 0 or 1.
No,
he doesn't give you like
least
those, but he's not going to give you Andrews, Kelsey numbers, but he might score 2 touchdowns, and that's all you need from the tight end.
Yeah, if he can get you 50 yards, 3-4 catches, that's great for tight ends anymore.
Yeah.
And then we've talked about Jalen Hurts coming into his 3rd year, finished top 10, number 9 in quarterback rankings last year. With this being kind of his prove it year, I think a lot of people skeptical about how he threw the ball. You give him a number 1, he has a solid 2, good tight end, and you can even argue his running backs, they're not great, but they're not terrible. Do you see him continuing to make a step up and pushing his way to the top 5 of this year just because, too, of his legs and how he runs the football? Because he had 784 yards rushing last year.
I really think that he won't be like Jalen Hurts is a good fantasy quarterback, but like everyone in the top 10 had over 4,000 passing yards. He had 3,100. So you have to have it over that 4,000 mark. And with the addition with AJ Brown, I think that makes him a better quarterback. But I just really think the Eagles are really going to focus on that run game still. I still think he's going to have that 600 to 700 rushing yards, some rushing touchdowns. Probably not as much as he did. He had 10 last year.
Yeah.
He'll probably, I can see around like the 6-7 mark. And then that's when Miles Sanders comes in. I think he actually scores some touchdowns. So I can see Jalen Hurts being top 10, but with not being a passing quarterback like everyone else, I think that keeps him out of the top 5.
That's what I don't know. Fantasy quarterback wise, he can easily push up there because of his feet. And I think with the addition of AJ Brown, you might see more. But like I said, I think he'll be top 10 because he can utilize his legs so well. It's just now, what's he going to look like after that? How early? So we'll say Allen Mahomes, probably Kyler, Lamar. Who would be your 5th one over Hurts?
Would you say Mahomes in there?
Yeah. Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Kyler. I personally would take Tom Brady over him, but
yeah, I would go Herbert, and I think Tom Brady. But other than that, like Jalen Hurts, if he just has any better of a passing like year, like he just gets any better.
Yeah.
So you're getting a top 10 quarterback that actually for passing had a pretty bad year last year. And if he can keep the same running and then he can actually throw the ball, and then on top of that, like we haven't discussed this yet, this division is like has all 4 teams in the top 10 of easiest schedules against bad defenses. So they're actually playing some not great defenses that were last year.
Yeah.
So if it's his chance right now, this is the year for him to make that move into the top 5. And I would take a chance on him. I would take him probably 6, 7, kind of the same as you. Probably I would take Herbert and Tom Brady over him. And I think you can argue with Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers because of how great of quarterbacks they can be throwing the ball. But I think you taking a chance on Jalen Hurts, because if he throws the ball any better, it's a steal from where he's getting drafted.
Yeah, that's what it'll be. It's super interesting to kind of see what it's going to look like. Like you said, I think he fits in that 7 role. And if you want to take his running ability over somebody, that's what like he's definitely got to be up there. And then we look here, last thing, running back wise. Miles Sanders came out, said, don't draft me in fantasy. Last year, finished 44th. He had 754 yards rushing, and he missed about 5-6 games. And left early in 2 of them. So to me, he's super hard to kind of evaluate. I know looking at his numbers like yards per carry, he's like on his career average, he's around 5.5, 5.4, which is really good. It's just, can he be more consistent? And then the receiving option, I feel like he's not really a threat, and they're going to rely on Kenneth Gainwell a lot more for that aspect of it. It's just, do you think Miles Sanders kind of on his, you got to prove it that you want to be going into his 4th year, let me see what you can do kind of thing. Do you think he steps up, or do you think we kind of see, because in his rookie year finished top 15, great year. Now they're in a pretty much run heavy offense. He's got weapons around him. What do you think his outlook is this year?
Well, he's got to score a touchdown. First off, like he can't go another year without scoring a touchdown. I've always, on a personal level, I don't want to draft Miles Sanders. I did it last year, and I think I did a year before, or I traded for him, and he's just really just bit me, and just I couldn't. He's just been it's been hard to have him on my team, and so especially when you're playing PPR, his yards per catch especially have gone down each year he's played. His targets have gone down each year as well. So in a PPR, that's hard to do with Gainwell. It looks like they love having him on 3rd down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Miles Sanders, his yards per carry have gone up each single year. Yeah. And then his attempts, like he was hurt last year, so his attempts were down. But the yards per carry were there, and the Eagles really want to run the ball. It's just hard for me to draft Miles Sanders and just be comfortable with it. Yeah. I just always be scared, like, when's he going to be coming off the field? Like, when's he just, I'm going to get on my phone and he's going to be out with an ankle injury. There's something like that. Like, there's no one on his team to take over his position. No one's going to be a full-time back like he is. So if you want to go by that, he's going to have those carries. I don't think he's going to do much with it.
So if you're sitting, okay, you go first 2 rounds, running backs or whatever. We're sitting fifth round, and you have a chance to take Miles Sanders. Would you take him there in the 5th round?
No, I'm going 7th, 8th round. That's where I feel.
That's what
I feel the 5th round, I'm getting a wide receiver I feel like is going to do more to my team than Miles Sanders is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's always tough for me. I like Miles Sanders in this offense because they are a run-first team. It's just, how can he stay healthy? That's the biggest thing. Injury prone. Those were issues. I don't know. I don't like him to be early, but if I'm sitting 5th round, 6th round, and he's there, I think you got to take him because he's going to score a touchdown. That's going to happen. Like, I think last year that was just, you had Jordan Howard, Scott was back there as well, which is Scott still in the team, but I just think Miles Sanders is too talented for them to not give the ball to at all. And I think you're going to see he's going to score touchdowns. He's bound to break big runs off like he has. With the amount the Eagles run the football, I think you got to take him out. And in the fifth round, I think that's cut a steal to get a number 1 that late.
Yeah, and if he stays healthy, he plays 16, 17 games, and the amount of carry, the amount of workload he'll be on the field it's a steal in the 5th round. It's like you'll probably already have another running back, so you'll end up having 2 number 1 running backs. It's just him staying healthy. That's his biggest issue.
Yeah, and it just really it's going to be also too how much is Jalen Hurts involved in that run offense?
Yep.
How much does he take away from Miles?
Mhm.
But outside of that, I think the Eagles team, I know win under win total was 9.5 going into this year. It was 8.5 before they got AJ Brown. I would honestly, when you look at that whole division, I think the Eagles are the favorites to come out of that division. Just because the Cowboys didn't really do anything to get better last year. So in this all season. So I'll be interested to kind of see what they do. And it's a perfect segue going into Cowboys talk here. Big trade. They give Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns. He's gone. That now means this is CD's team. CD has to step up, be that number 1 guy. Michael Gallup coming off the ACL injury. What do you kind of think? Where do you see CD finishing this year? I know he's had I feel like he kind of had a big disappointing year last year. He finished decently well. It's just not what I feel like everybody thought he was going to do.
Yeah, it was. I feel like because I had CD as well, and it was describe it as like, yeah, it was good, but I expected better. Like he was getting drafted 2nd, 3rd round, even into the 4th round, but on that team, it was just like he would have these pop off games, and then it was like in the playoff game, he had like 1 catch for 10 yards.
Yeah,
and he's supposedly like their best wide receiver, and so. But for me, the talent on that team. This is the year the Cowboy Dak Prescott needs to come out. CeeDee Lamb's the best wide receiver. Won't have Michael Gallup to start the season. They have a pretty easy schedule. I think this is the year CeeDee Lamb. I'm gonna guess he's gonna finish in the top 5 wide receiver this year.
So
you're top 5.
So obviously, I'm guessing you're going Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. You think CD's that 5th best option there in the wide receiver core?
I believe so. Because just the circumstance of like they're starting to get away from Zeke. They're going to be bringing in Pollard a little bit more. The wide receiver kind of is just not there. Like Gallup's not there anymore. I can't think of who's the other wide receiver. My mind just went blank. Nope. No, yeah, CJ Wilson. Sorry, my mind just went blank there. Those guys aren't there anymore, and so it's who else is Dak going to throw to? We can get into Dalton Schultz a little bit later because I think that's also going to be a very big target for him. But I think this is CeeDee Lamb's year, but he's not going to do it this year. Like he's just not that guy they thought he was going to be. They thought they're going to get another top 5 wide receiver. This is going to be their Dez Bryant, their stud, and I think this is the year for him to do it.
That's what I think. I think CD's going to finish, like you said. He's got to finish top. If Cowboys want to be successful, he's got to be a top 5 wide receiver. I think he does take a step. He's gone up. He had some drop issues, but without Amari now, it's fully his team. And Gallup being on the PUP list, I feel like Gallup won't be ready by week 1. I feel like it'll be a little bit. Then he even
said he's not going to be.
Yeah. The one guy I guess you could talk about outside of Schultz would be Jalen Tolbert, who's the rookie they drafted out of South Alabama. They said he's looked really well and has impressed in the offense. So he's one rookie, especially if you're looking in the draft late for a guy, you need somebody that might be a steal. I would take him because he's going to take those second reps, and there's going to be somebody that needs to take off the heat from CeeDee Lamb on the outside, and I think Jalen Tolbert could be that guy. They got him in the 3rd round. I think he's going to be good. He's I don't know. I think he's going to be doing well, and they said that the chemistry between him and Dak have already grown tremendously. So that's something for me. I think as the number 2 option, and you're looking for late flexing. I mean, Tolbert probably won't get drafted by a lot of people because his wide receiver class is loaded. I just think he's something that you got to watch out for.
Yeah, that's very true. Like all the big names in the first round that were drafted, those wide receivers, everyone's hopping on them. You got Christian Watson for the Packers in the second round. It's just like Tolbert, he's going to have the opportunity. It's going to be there.
I saw a stat before we go. With Aaron Rodgers, he's never had a first-year wide receiver go over 550 yards in a year.
Really?
Yeah, so that's something to keep an eye out for. Watts, I know now he has literally nobody outside of Lazard, but that's something to keep an eye out for.
He called Lazard a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Fame, yeah. Lazard
going from one Hall of Famer to the next, it's tough.
Yeah, that's and funny. And like you said, you mentioned the probably second best option from CeeDee Lamb came out of nowhere, finished top 3 tight end was Dalton Schultz. They expect to have him back again this year. And without Blake Jarwin, who left, who was his competition, it's Dalton Schultz. And I think you're going to see another good deal, another good year out of Dalton Schultz. Now, do you see that same repetition of top 3, or do you think he's going to fall back a little bit? He did have 8 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, that was tied for second behind Kelsey and Andrews, third in points, and did on a lot less receptions and targets too. So it's pretty incredible. I think you just keep going with it. I think Dak found something with him. You know, the Cowboys played some not great teams last year, and they played not great teams again this year.
Yeah.
So I think Dak has found his kind of weapon in that red zone, especially, and I think he's going to stick with it. I don't know why you wouldn't. Like, CeeDee Lamb's not a big guy. I'm not sure how big is Tolbert. Is he more of a speed guy, or is he more of a bigger target?
I feel like he's kind of a mixture. He's 6'5", so he's a big dude, but he's done well this year. He plays.
Yeah, that's why I thought. So you stick with Schultz. I think Schultz is especially I think Mari was more in the red zone, but since he's gone now, Dalton Schultz is going to be a red zone guy, and that's where I think he's coming to play. I can see 7-8 touchdowns again. I really can.
Yeah, and he's athletic enough. They're going to move the ball around. They're going to do things where I think he's going to finish top 5 again. There's not many tight ends to really choose from anymore, so it's kind of hard. And when you're the second best option,
everyone's sleeping on Schultz. Everyone's going to think about Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle, even Ertz with Hopkins.
Schultz is a 7th, 8th round guy that you can get. So I would.
He could be a steal.
Dak, I feel like kind of had. I don't know. I feel like everybody had big type of expectations from Dak last year. I feel like he finished top 10, but it wasn't the same type of performance what you expected. I feel like you're going to see top 10. They throw the ball. Their defense isn't great. I think they're going to continue to have to do that because, their team didn't get worse, but they definitely didn't get better. I don't think in the offseason, in my opinion. So Dak's going to be Dak. I feel like you're going to take him. Here's question: Hurts or Dak? Who you taking first?
I take Hurts, just because
the
Dak
running
is
aspect.
Just the running aspect, and I think ever since that whole ankle injury with him when he broke his ankle, and last year, I think that calf injury bothered him a lot more than he was lit on. I think, and Dak's a little bit older than Jalen. I just think that he's going to throw the ball a little bit more. He's not going to have that running aspect, which he always has in his back pocket. But I think he wants to throw the ball more before he decides to run. So I personally will take Jalen. I like Jalen this year, but if you end up with Dak, I'm not upset about it.
Dak's definitely dropping from last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll keep bringing it up. They play some not good defenses this year, going into the season, especially against the pass. I think I want to say 10 of their or 11 of the 17 teams, or 11 of the teams have ranked over 15th in passing defense. So it's they're not good.
No, so I think what the division's not good at all. So it is what it is.
And that's where I'm just if you end up with Dak, you might have games where he's throwing for 400. I've had Dak before against you, and when the Cowboys have been down a lot because their defense is that good, Dak throws for 400 or 500 yards and gets 4 touchdowns.
And I think we're going to kind of see a repeat of that going this year because I mean, the defense was okay last year. It wasn't great. Micah Parsons is great, but I don't know. He's going to have to throw the ball a lot because I think that's just how they're going to have to keep up. So, so we'll go from there and go to running backs. Looking over at Zeke and Tony Pollard now going forward. I know there's been a lot of down on Zeke going into this year. It feels like he hasn't been performing because he hasn't been putting up those big numbers. But after looking at it, Zeke hasn't finished under top 10 except for once in his career for PPR and standard. You look at, and that was in 2017, so a second year. With that being said, I feel like Zeke will still continue to be their number one back because I think he's a better runner. But I think Tony Pollard is going to be utilized in this offense without having really any threats at wide receiver. And they've mentioned this. I think he's going to be more of a valuable option in the slot and doing more of that two-back stuff that we saw last year. And to where I could think you could still take Zeke. I think if you get him in the third, that is a huge steal for you this year. And he's been going late in the draft because people just expect Tony Pollard to take over that role.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expect that. I think Zeke came out and said he actually was playing through a torn PCL last year that he suffered in like week 4. So he just couldn't ever like get going. And he still, like you said, still finished in the top 10. I think third round's a steal this year. I think a lot of people are kind of moving on to like Aaron Jones, Connor. I guess he's kind of same with like Barkley, but like with Swift, Joe Mixon, everyone's kind of putting Zeke to the side, and maybe they'll get him, but maybe not my first choice. If I get Zeke in the third round, I'm very happy about that. I think he's going to have a good year. Like the Cowboys are probably going to use Pollard some just to keep Zeke healthy because he is getting older, and running backs they don't last long. But I think he's going to have another great season. Like you're kind of on the Eagles to win the division. I think the Cowboys are. I think between Dak, Zeke, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, they're all going to have great seasons, I believe. And so if I get a Cowboy on my team, I'm pretty excited about that.
It's always tough, the offense. And just people might say like, oh, Tony Pollard looked better running the ball. He did this. Zeke was still like Zeke. He finished top. He was number 7 last year. And if you look at over the last couple of years, his targets, he's still getting 65 targets a game, which is good for a running back. And I think especially you look at it before last year, it was 71, 71, 95. And then I think now going forward, we have to remember Zeke and Dak are best friends. They're going to utilize each other. I think Zeke's a trusted player for Dak, and I just think with the Gallups being hurt, we're going to see Tony Pollard utilizing a double back situation where Zeke is still going to be the main featured back. And like you said, if I'm getting him in the third, I'm running away with a steal. And I think you can expect him to continue to put touchdowns up too. So I don't know. To me, it's just he has fallen off. He's not what he was. His O-line was really good when he first came to the league. But to me, I still think Zeke can be a top 10 running back. And if you can get him late, I think that's a steal for this draft because I think he can only go up from what he did last year. And that was 7th overall. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and before he got hurt, when he got hurt, I think week 5, he was averaging almost 20 points per game. So if he doesn't get hurt, and he can do that all year, he finishes top 5 easy. So if he stays healthy, there should be no reason why he doesn't finish top 7 at least. And that's a top 7 running back that you're getting the third round. That's a steal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it just depends if you have any Cowboy fans in your draft, because I feel like there are a lot of people that are off Zeke this year.
I think a lot of people. I even think Cowboys fans are off Zeke. They want Tony Pollard. True. And I mean, I get you paid Zeke a lot of money, so he's going to get that rep. I just think you can't quit on him yet, because even when they had Dak got hurt and it was Andy Dalton, Marcioni or Mark, I can't even remember his name. It's just he still finished top 10 PPR. So I think it's only going to continue. It's going to be Zeke's team in the backfield, but I think we do see Pollard featured. And if you're going to take Pollard, I think you got to take him late, and he's going to be a flex play for you week in, week out. Now, if Zeke gets hurt, you look like it's Pollard's team. But I just think with the wide receiver issues they're going to have to start the year, you need Zeke, and then Pollard's going to also have to be utilized in that offense. I think you're going to see it more in the slot. So that's really, I don't know. It's just, I like Zeke. I don't think everybody should be off him this early, but we're going to see kind of how it plays out for him.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting this year. I'm going to definitely be watching him because I think what happens if he has even a worse year they did last year? Like, they have him on that contract. Are they just going to stop playing him, or you think they might even try to trade him a little?
They might use him to trade, or I don't know. It's gonna be. It depends really injuries too, like where the Cowboys are, what the injuries are gonna look like, and going there forward. But I don't know. Like you said, I think it's Cowboys, Eagles. I think Eagles win. I think their defense is better than the Cowboys defense, and but I mean it's also too. I don't like Mike McCarthy. I think he's an idiot. But
I agree with you. Like, I don't like, and if you talk about the Cowboys defense, they got they always talk about their interceptions last year, and they're not going to be able to do that again this year. So
Trayvon did,
that is going to be tough for them. I go back and forth. Yesterday, I think I was on the Eagles, and then I was doing a little bit of research on the Cowboys and like how I'm just big on CeeDee Lamb this year. I'm just like, you know what? I think they got it again. So today's Cowboys. Talk to me next week. It might be back on the Eagles.
Yeah.
I know it's not the Giants or the Commanders. I'll tell you that.
No.
I promise you that.
We'll switch over here to the Commanders. Another running back kind of controversy that we come across. Antonio Gibson, expected to be like a McCaffrey type player last year, going early first, second. Pretty much has found himself into a running back by committee with J.D. McKissick. And then I also think they added Brian Robinson from Alabama last year. And they've talked about him being a goal line option. Now, Gibson's probably still number one. We've seen him have injuries plague him, and that be a concern. Looking at this running back room, would you even touch Gibson until I don't even know when his average draft position, his ADP, I don't even know what it is, but I feel like it's got to be late. It's third, fourth, maybe. Just because running backs run out, but
it's late fourth, early fifth.
That's what. So I don't like Antonio Gibson in the Washington offense. That's just me. And I think with Brian Robinson being added, there's a lot of breathing down his neck for that job.
So, I agree with you. Antonio Gibson's already started off the season with training camp. He's been on the sideline with the hamstring. And that's just what has been happening to Gibson. I was big on Gibson last year. I thought that's where he'd kind of take over a little bit more, but J.D. McKissick was still there. The only thing that's keeping me is the quarterback for the Washington Commanders does not like the deep ball. He likes to be take the easy passes, can be very comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you throw to the running back a lot. You have your dump offs. And so if you're not on Carson Wentz, but you think you can throw a dump off here and there, that's where I think Gibson could save a season. But other than that, I'm off on Antonio Gibson too. I can't with the injuries, with this team. It's hard. I think there's better running backs out there. Like, I'll ask you this. I'm guessing I already know this answer for you. Miles Sanders or Antonio Gibson?
I'll take Miles Sanders over Antonio. I don't like anybody from Washington this year. I worry about Carson Wentz. And like you mentioned, him being quarterback there. Like Taylor Heineke, I don't know. Carson Wentz, they're paying him all this money. He's going to be the guy. I just don't see unless he magically goes back to his former self, which I don't see happening.
No.
I don't know how he changes this offense drastically from what it was with Heineke last year.
Nope, I don't either. I got off the Carson Wentz train. I thought when he went to the Colts, it was a bust year, or he was going to turn around. Like, it wasn't going to be either or.
Mhm.
And if Jonathan Taylor's not on that team, that offense is bad. Very bad.
Frank Wright, who loves him, got rid of it. Like,
yeah, he after 1 year, he's like, that guy's done.
Did you
done.
watch the in-season stuff?
No, I never watched that.
Well, I watched on the HV. Like, it was pretty clear cut. Like, they need Carson to make 2 throws a game to win it, and he can't do it. And I'm not saying, like, his weapons last year were good. He had Michael Pittman. T.Y. was out of his prime. I know he doesn't have much as he probably does here. I just don't know about Carson Wentz. And you talked about his deep golf game, or he likes to throw. The only thing that can hold this team going forward is there's 2 options for me, I think, for them. It's Jahad Dotson, who they just picked up from Penn State, who I think is secretly one of the most ready wide receivers for the NFL. He is one that I feel like can keep an eye out for, and then Curtis Samuel as well.
Mhm.
Those 2 guys, I think, will help McLaurin, which he didn't have last year. And I think the quick game with Curtis Samuel can only help this team as much as it can. And I think Dotson's a big threat that people don't really utilize it, like think about as much. And for him being a rookie, they got him in the 3rd round. I think I might have even been 2nd. I just think with McLaurin's holdout, Dotson and Samuel might help out because they've been working with Carson Wentz. I don't know. It's just, if you're going to take Terry. It's like he's proven with bad quarterbacks he can be something. I just don't know. Are we going to see the woes that we had last year with Terry again?
Yeah, that's going to be difficult because you're not getting an upgraded quarterback, and so you're going to have to try to find him to get him the ball. Ron Rivera is a good coach. I like him. I think he's going to be smart and be able to try to give Terry McLaurin the ball. Just, I don't know if Carson Wentz can. I really don't.
That's what.
And so
I mean,
I do like the Dotson because I think a lot of people are like us, are like, Wentz is trash, he's done. But if you get Dotson late, you stash him on your bench and you kind of see what this team does. And if it starts to be bad and just isn't anything, you just drop him. You don't have to think about it. But if this team is good, Dotson's going to be good. He's going to be a part of them being good. And so if you can just stash him on your bench for a couple weeks, and then you get to play him, you find that little piece of gold and everything, that'd be great. And so I do like Dotson. I'm not on the big Curtis Samuel fan, kind of here and there. I don't think he's going to be drafted really. So you'd almost have to wait and see exactly what's going to happen with him and how that's all going to play out.
Because Curtis Samuel, you look back at it 2 years ago when he kind of burst on the scene, 850 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. He had 77 catches, and a lot of them were quick games in Ron Rivera's offense, which is why I think he could be a big reason why that quick offense, and they utilize him so different, which they can utilize him out of the backfield, which also hurts Antonio Gibson, I think. That's why I just think Dotson will help McLaurin, and I think McLaurin will have a better finish at 25th than he did last year. He might be top 20. I just, like you said, it's so hard because how much can you trust Carson Wentz? Like, Michael Pittman was good. He didn't really do much with him. I think Terry's better than Michael Pittman, but with Terry holding out on his contract till about a month ago, I just is that connection going to be developed by the time the season starts going forward? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. They don't tight end. There really isn't any help. Logan Thomas coming off his ACL injury. I don't even think he'll be ready by the time the season starts.
Yeah, he tore that in December, so I don't think he should be ready. Yeah. And there's no tight ends behind him that.
No, there's not even worth looking for. So it really looks at, like, where's Terry's ADP right now? Where's he usually going?
McLaurin.
Because I would assume
he's actually going at the end of the 4th round.
Okay, which, I mean, you look at last year, he had Heineke, still 1,000-yard receiver. It's just he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, which can hurt. But
and yeah, if you have how I would do it, if you're not like trading picks or anything, you should have two good running backs and already a number one wide receiver, and then Terry McLaurin as your number two. I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
If Terry McLaurin's your best wide receiver on your team, that's a little iffy
tough
for me.
Yeah, it's tough. That's what I agree. I think if you can get a 2 out of Terry, then like somehow you manage to get him as a number 3 option. Those are great places to have him. But yeah, if you're relying on him to be your best option, I think you're going to struggle this year in fantasy overall. And I don't know. It's Washington. I just can't get on that train to be like they're going to be good. They're going to do anything. So, but I think Jahad Dotson has a chance to be a top tier rookie that people aren't talking about with Wilson, Olave, London. I just think he's one that we got to keep an eye out for. And you could probably get him really late in the draft just to stash and hold just in case.
He's going 14th, 15th round.
So if you got that and you can take a chance, I think it's worth it for him because what he showed at Penn State was he's athletic. He's just, to me, he's really good. So that's pretty much it on the Commanders. It's just, I feel like, I don't know. Their defense, everybody was on last year. I don't know. The team is just so confusing to me. I just don't like.
And like I'm on Ron Rivera, but they have a lot of distractions for that team with Dan Snyder going on. Everyone's gonna be like, is this if Carson Wentz doesn't do this year, he won't start again. So it's like everyone's gonna be talking about Carson Wentz, and there's a lot going on. So hopefully they can get that figured out. And
they do have Sam Howell, so you never know. Maybe he somehow presses a camp and he can start. You're paying Carson Wentz. You traded for him to pay him to be your quarterback. So
it makes sense. You got Taylor Heineke too. So very, very weird stuff going on, but hopefully they can turn around. More teams in this division so they can stop being the worst in the NFC. The better for them.
Yeah. And then probably, I don't know, this team has been not very good over the last couple of years, but the Giants hire Brian Dable from the Bills. I think this is a step forward. Now, how much of a step forward is that going to be for them? It's hard to say. I think their defense is secretly really good, and I think they'll be able to win some games in the division and playing some teams. It's just going to come down to, one, what's Daniel Jones going to look like? And I think this is kind of Daniel Jones's, you need to prove it to me this year that you're our guy, or they're going to move on. He's going into year 4, hasn't had a top 20 finish from any years as the quarterback. What do you think is going to happen going forward with Daniel Jones this year getting an OC who came from the Bills with Josh Allen?
With Daniel Jones, to be honest with you, I kind of feel like the Giants are done with him. I think they're just trying to run this one out, and then during the draft, they'll go get Brian will go get his quarterback.
Yeah, I think.
And so I think they might be done with him. And unless Barkley has a good season, I think they're done with Barkley too. I think they're. Did they pick up Jones's 5th-year option, or did they decline it?
I'm pretty sure they declined it.
I'm pretty sure they did too. And so that makes me think
I think
Daniel Jones has a great season, I think the Giants are kind of just letting the season go. And then if they have a bad season, they'll go draft a quarterback next year. Because they got Tyrod Taylor on the team, and so if they need to, he might even start a few games if Daniel Jones doesn't do the job, and just let Tyrod just kind of take control of that team and then coach the rookie they draft next year. So unless Daniel Jones has a great season, I think he's done.
That's what I think it's going to be. It's like I said, I think this is it for Daniel Jones. Unless he comes out of nowhere with this offense, but I've read stuff where he's not being the most consistent in camp. He hasn't looked great, so that's always questionable. With a new coach coming in, he's probably not his guy, and he's going to go find a guy to get to next year to take over his stuff. And then, like you said, Saquon Barkley, kind of just one who injury prone, can't really stay healthy, hasn't done anything really since his first 2 years in league. Now I think some of that's with his offense, but I don't know. Like, what do you think? You think this is a year he finally stays healthy?
There's nothing that tells me he will, because he says he feels good, and I hope he does. Like I always liked Barkley, and when he's healthy, he's a tank. He's a great running back. It's just but that's just kind of how this Giants team is. Like if you look at their wide receivers, looked at their tight ends in the past, they all just get hurt.
Sterling Shepard,
the whole team just gets hurt. It's crazy.
Sterling Shepard couldn't stay healthy for more than 2 games last year, and
he
was actually solid.
Then Tony had like 2-3 games, and then he couldn't stay on the field.
I know.
And then Kenny Golladay is the biggest bust of wide receiver I've ever seen for amount of money he's making.
I know.
And so it's just like, I hope Saquon does good, and if he does have a good season, and they can get a good quarterback next year, it'd be a good pair right there. But I just don't see this team doing anything anymore. Like you said, I like this defense. I think this team's going to run through their defense. That's how they're going to actually win games.
How they won games last year, yeah.
Yeah, but unless the Giants figure out how to stay healthy, I just don't see this team doing anything. Honestly, I see them. I don't know. The Commanders are awful too. And I think that Giants defense might.
I think Giants will finish higher than Commanders.
I think the defense. I think you're right. I wanted to say the Giants were under, but then I thought about Carson Wentz again. And I was like, no,
that's what.
There's no
Daniel
way.
Jones is a Carson Wentz 2.0, but yeah, I don't know. I like Saquon. Like he's gonna be there in the second, third round, and I feel like you're gonna take him in hopes that he eventually comes back and can stay healthy. And like I said, I'm taking him after Zeke. You're taking him after like the big name guys are gone. It's just
he's going early third round. There's people
I figured
people are on him.
Hey, they're all about what he did 2 years ago, which I don't blame him. What he did 2 years ago, he was the number 1 running back or number 2 his rookie year. Then he was the 10th best, and then he hasn't sniffed because he can't stay healthy. It just is what it is. He's shown some spurts. He can catch the ball, he can run the ball, and when you look at their backfield, there's no help outside of Saquon.
It's it. If he's
going to be a 3-down back,
and that's why people are drafting him. If they're like in his head, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be on the field most of the time.
Probably all the time. Like, he is a 3-down back. Like he will get every single snap.
Matt Breida going to take some runs and take over that job? Yeah. I don't think so.
And that's what I don't know. To me, it's just you're going to take him, and you just hope that he stays healthy and he finds back into not even what he was, but just a consistent. If you could get 15 points, that's a great draft pick out of Saquon this year. And you just need him to be effective in receiving the ball. Because when we look at their receivers, like we've already talked on a little bit, Kenny Golladay, who just got paid a bunch of money from the Lions, and then he got hurt last year and just kind of was never did anything. Just not even close to being relevant for the Giants.
Zero touchdowns, by the way. 0 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, he was bad. And I think when you pay him that much money, you just expect him to do anything. And I don't know. Kenny Golladay is one. I wouldn't even touch him. I just would stay away. But I do have one sleeper for this team. Okay, it's not Kadarius Toney. I think he's gonna find himself off the team by the end of the year. He just does stupid stuff. Shepard can't stay healthy. Slayton, we saw drop problems, can't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's this guy, the rookie they drafted from Kentucky, Wan'Dale Robinson. He is a freak. He had 104 catches last year at Kentucky, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns. He had 4 games where he was over 150 yards. And we finished out, I remember watching him against Iowa, 10 catches, about 150, 60, 70 yards. The dude was unreal. And he's someone I've always kept an eye on after that game, because I was like, and from what I saw in previous games where he would go off, I just think if there's going to be one guy from this team that they're going to utilize like crazy, I think it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. He's 5'8", 185 pounds, but they're going to move him around the field, I think, into mismatch with the linebackers. They're going to move him outside because he's fast, he's quick, he runs really good routes. I just think this is a guy, if you're going to take from the Giants, I think Wan'Dale Robinson's the guy to take, and he will be one of my sleepers going into this year. And I think as a rookie, he's one you can get really late, 15th, 14th round, that can change your team as a low end flex play and possibly eventually step into like a wide receiver 2 spot. That's how confident I think in him this year.
Yeah, with him, it's more about just getting him the ball. Like, just let him make plays. He's kind of with that small frame and just that burst he has. Just get him the ball, and then he's great at running routes, so he's going to be open. And so just getting the ball as much as possible, especially with these wide receivers that are going to be hurt. Like, he's going to be on the field. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be on the field a lot. And I like that pick. I like that sleeper. And these wide receivers that no one's talking about because of the big wide receivers taken on, like we were talking about earlier, I think you might find some good wide receivers that were taken in the second, third round that maybe different years they might be late first, just because of the wide receiver class in this draft class.
That's what I don't know. The wide receiver class is very good, but I just think for like when I watched him in college and with Kentucky, they're not a premier football team. I just think he's a guy that Dable's going to find things to do with him and move him around and make him very effective. Like when you look at Stephon Diggs, now Stephon Diggs is really good, but he made him become a number 1 in Buffalo, and he finally showed his assets and everything. And I think you're going to see Kenny Golladay not be the guy, not even Tony or Shepard. I think it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson, and he has potential. Like I said, there's always 2 or 3 guys that come out that are rookies that have solid performances. There's Chase last year, Justin Jefferson the year before. Robinson could be that potential guy because when you look at like Wilson from the Jets has Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Michael Thomas with Olave, New Orleans. London's probably the only one who's by himself on the outside minus Kyle Pitts. I just think if there's going to be one guy for this team that's going to stay healthy, because we've seen Kadarius Toney not, Shepard definitely not, Golladay, I think he's going to be the one. So that's like the wide receiver core. Outside that, that's pretty much it. Tight end wise, they got rid of Evan Ingram, went down to Jacksonville, and they have Ricky Seals. Like I wouldn't touch outside of, I think besides Barkley, and then I would take Wan'Dale very late. Those 2 will be the only ones I touch off this team. Golladay has to show me that he could prove that who he was with the Lions. And I don't know. I don't see him really coming back from that. I never liked Golladay with the Lions, so I don't really know.
I agree with you. Those are 2 guys. Maybe looking at Tony, if I can get him late just because of what he's been able to do
last year.
Yeah, but that's about it for me. This Giants team is just, the offense is just hard to watch.
He just did stupid stuff. Like against the Cowboys, he had 190 yards. I think he almost had 200 yards or something. Just went up, started swinging on the guy. It's like, what are you doing? Like, figure it out. But that's what he is, from Florida, keeping up with Hernandez.
No,
so
to be honest with you, that was his last good game. After that, he was hurt for most of the time and had some just down games. So
I don't know. That's what Giants. I don't know. The NFC East, I think outside Eagles, Cowboys, you're picking somebody off the team, hoping that it's going to pan out for you.
The only thing you can add to that, the Giants have the easiest schedule going into the season.
So I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting, I think, to say at least, for these 2 teams. Like, I don't know, NFC East or NFC Beast. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. I just don't see outside the top 2 teams with the Eagles and Cowboys. You're not really gonna touch the other guys unless you need to. Like Barkley, I think is the only guy from the 2 that you can take with McLaurin and maybe the 5th. Like, okay, those are pretty much it. I'm done. But yeah, so that is it for the NFC East. Do you have any other things that you want to touch on, or are you pretty much done with that?
No, that's like I said, to kind of start off, like these teams have very easy schedules going in, so it's going to be interesting. Like for like a betting aspect, maybe the Eagles and Cowboys taking their over win total, like
That's
you
what-
said with
I
the
mean,
Eagles were 9.5.
Cowboys have to be around 10, I would
Yeah,
assume.
I can see the Eagles easily going 10-7. That seems like a very easy.
And
thing for
Cowboys,
them.
if I'm sure it's probably like 10.5.
Yeah, it's probably 10.5.
Like let's see who the Cowboys play. Bucks probably lost. Cincinnati, they can beat them. Giants, Washington, Rams, Philly, Detroit, Chicago.
They have their division, then they play
Yeah.
the NFC North and then the AFC South. Then they have Dutch, Jacksonville, Texans, Titans, Colts, and so those are all winnable games. They can win all their division games at home. They can probably go win against Detroit,
Detroit, Chicago.
Chicago.
for
So
sure.
like those are pretty.
They could beat Minnesota. It is what they could do that. So I don't know. Betting this year is going to be interesting to look at for them.
Yeah.
The NFC
That's
East
going
too
to
is
be
so
another
unpredictable.
episode when we get into that. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. That's what. Okay, I've been seeing this a lot. Who do you think is going to be the worst team in the NFL this year?
The worst team, Seahawks.
Really? A lot of people think the Bears are going to be the worst.
Why is it like
they don't have Roquan Smith anymore. Roquan Smith, their linebacker, they haven't come to a contract and he's holding out.
Yeah,
you lost Khalil Mack. You don't have anything. It's gonna. I don't know. I just was curious to see who you think is gonna be the worst, because I don't think the Jags will be. I think the Jags will be. I think Trevor Lawrence will be a little bit better, but
yeah, I think, and like with Houston, like whenever you think the worst team is, like when they have nothing to prove, like you win a couple games, like with Houston. So I honestly think Seattle. I really think Seattle is the closest team to taking it, but I can see Chicago too. Justin Fields has a bad year.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Well, they don't have anybody. Like Seattle plays in the I would say toughest division. With their top three are pretty heavy. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that'll do it here for the NFC wrap up. Next episode, we're going to try to do probably a mock draft, and then after that, we'll knock out the AFC teams and do their preview. But other than that, we will catch you guys on the next episode. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow along, and let us know in the comments what you think. Deuces.
See ya.